First of all, I would like to thank you for coming and joining me today to learn about how to care for our first responders, their families, through emotional first aid. Let me introduce myself. My name is Shelly Pinomaki, and I am a chaplain. I have worked with law enforcement. I also am part and the owner and founder of Seeking Hope. It is a way to help people care for others and not make matters worse. A lot of times we don't know what to say and how to say it. So Seeking Hope was founded to help walk alongside those people that are in crisis, that are suffering, that are just having a hard time and don't know what to do, don't know what to say, how to say it. And that's what we're here for. And also to bring God's word into the midst of anything we can to offer hope, peace in the midst of this world, this crazy world that we live in. So thank you for joining me. We are recording this, so if you get an opportunity to forward this on later, that would be wonderful. And I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation. If you've got some questions, feel free to use the chat box and bring those in, and hopefully we'll have time at the end to be able to address those. So with that, let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. So, emotional first aid for first responders and their families. What can we do to actually help them do their job in a way that brings glory and honor to them? We don't know their job. We don't know how to do it. We can't. But how can we be a support system for first responders and their families? One of the things that we're going to kind of talk about here is that there is a lot of different ways that we can go about helping first responders. Right now, it's really destructive with some of the protests that are going on and the extremes that are happening in our law enforcement and some of the feelings that are coming through. We need to remember that it's kind of like the iceberg effect. There's this little part that we can see that we're doing, that we're helping with, but there is this whole other much larger aspect to caring for first responders and their families. One of the things that I'd like to address or go into first and foremost is, who are you? Who are you in the midst of the first responder? So we're going to talk about a lot of things here, and I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth and try and give everybody that's on this list an opportunity that they can reach out to first responders. But are you a spouse? Your relationship is going to be completely different than, say, your parents or the children of first responders. Their experience and what they are going through is very different as well. Are you just a friend? Friends are important. But can we really understand what it's like behind those doors in that home when they're having to deal with everything that's going on being in law enforcement, whether it's the hatred that's going on or whether it's the praise that's going on and the constant shifting of them putting their lives on the line for their communities, and how do they care for that? How does that affect them? We have coworkers. How we respond to each other as law enforcement professionals is different as well. Or maybe you're a parent of a law enforcement professional. You are going to have a whole different way of looking at it. And we can't begin to understand or assume that I understand what you're feeling. We can't. The best thing that we can do is find out who we are in the relationship with the first responder and their families, and play that role. If you're a friend, listen, be supportive, give them a place to talk and to vent and whatnot. But you can't say, I know what it's like. And we have to remember that in this world, there is the black side, there's the white side, and there's the gray. And we live in the gray. Nothing is ever black and white. Nothing is ever 100% one way and 100% another way. We have to understand that we live in these things where variance goes on. And we are just human beings. who do our very best, but sometimes make mistakes. And we have to understand that and be able to be empathetic and be understanding to what's going on and realize we don't get it. And unless you are a law enforcement professional and you're out on that line every day with your partner or whatever it happens to may be, that you have it's their way of understanding what's going on, and we can't begin to assume that. So we're going to go through this in a body, mind, and spirit, and a triad there. So as a chaplain, I've had this opportunity to walk in these lines with these law enforcement. I'm not a sworn officer. I don't go out there and arrest people or do anything, but I am a chaplain, and I am out there with our law enforcement professionals all the time. And so I get to see a lot of things. The first thing we want to take a look at is the body, or the physical portion of that. What we can do to offer support and help to first responders is to allow them to physically ground themselves in the moment. There's some great techniques that particularly work with people who suffer from anxiety and depression that can be very helpful in grounding ourselves. You put your feet on the ground, no shoes, and actually curl your toes a little bit. Feel the earth. We can do something, that it's like, where am I looking? Engage all 5 of the senses. What do I see? And you actually talk about out loud. I am seeing the blue sky with the clouds. I am hearing the birds chirping. I can touch the chair that I'm sitting on. What does that feel like? Is it rough? Is it smooth? When we go through all of those things, it automatically grounds us and brings us back into it. It's a very useful technique. Again, it's used a lot with anxiety, but when we have a physically demanding job, both emotionally, spiritually, and through our own physical bodies, we sometimes need to ground ourselves. So that's one really good technique that you can help either introduce to your friends or your family, and use it yourself before you go off in trying to help someone. Make sure that you are grounded. Do something different. If you are normally an outdoor person, what about putting on a movie and creating a movie night? Pop some popcorn, get some fluffy pillows. Or if you're mostly staying inside, you're a video game person, get off the video games, go outside, go for a walk, go to the beach, go to the mountains, go to the desert. Do something totally different than what you're normally doing. When we put ourselves in a whole new environment, it changes the senses in our brain and allows us to start experiencing something different. So we're not so wrapped up in the pain that we're going through or whatever it happens to be that we're going through. Then there's Maslow's law. This is one of the things as a chaplain that we hold near and dear. One of those things for the Maslow's laws, it's basically 3 parts. But the first one is to make sure that their basic needs are met. Are they eating? Are they drinking? Are they getting enough fluids? Are they exercising their body in some way, shape? I don't care if it's a walk or if they're going to the gym, but what are those basic needs? The next one is to make sure that they feel safe. Are they in an environment that brings safety? Is the home safe in which they are living in? Are you a safe person for them to talk to? Ideally, situation is we want to create that safety zone. Then you can actually go into knowing how they're feeling and asking those open-ended questions. Law enforcement is famous for not wanting to talk about it. And it's part of that is a protection. It's a protection for you. If you understood everything that they saw, that they've got to go through, what the decisions they have to make, and the horrificness of human life sometimes that they are experiencing, they don't want to share that with you because they want to protect you. Can you be that safe person? And you have to decide that for yourself to be able to talk with them. And if it's not you, tell them you want them to talk to somebody. And it's okay if it's not me, but talk to someone. That's part of what we want to look at in that body shame, that body area that's going to help them physically reconnect with themselves and the people that they love. The mind. The mind is an interesting thing, isn't it? It's beautiful, it's wonderful, but it can also just send us down to dark rabbit holes, and we don't want to do that. But the first thing is you need to investigate your own feelings. We kind of talked about that just a minute ago, about can you take having that conversation with them? You may or may not be able to, and that's okay. Identifying who you are in the relationship and what you can offer them is really important. And then acknowledge where you are within that structure, knowing what you can do, whether it's right or wrong. There is no real right or wrong. Honor yourself, because if you go and try and help someone and you start to fall apart, then they then become the rescuer of their friend, of their spouse, of their child. So make sure that you know where you're at with that. Have them talk to someone that they trust. Now that could be peer support. Most departments all have a peer support, they have mental health, and the majority have chaplains. And chaplains offer a unique perspective. They offer the same perspective that mental health professionals do, where they have confidentiality. Peer support doesn't always offer that. Matter of fact, majority of them, peer support is not confidential. So we can be that conduit between that. If they don't want to go see mental health professional and peer support doesn't offer the confidentiality, you have a third option. Find someone you can trust, whether it is a friend, whether it's somebody, and it may need to be someone outside. That's why we talk about mental health professionals and chaplains, because they are not connected to the family in that close internet type of way. They're not living with them day in and day out. They don't see all the good, the bad, and the ugly. But they allow them to have a perspective because they're away from the situation and can glean into it and be able to help them check themselves if that's what needs, or let them know you're not going crazy. This isn't a good situation. And it really helps to have someone who is not connected to that. The other thing I wanted to talk about is defining hope. What does hope mean to you? What does hope mean for your first responder? What does hope even look like? I have a good partner and friend that defines it, that it is the belief that change is possible. That's the definition of hope. I love that. I've actually written it out and I have it on my bulletin board up above me here. So I remind myself that hope is really that there is a change is possible. If you look up in Webster's and whatnot, hope is an optimistic state of mind that is based on an expectation of a positive outcome. You've got to have hope. There is an option out there. There is availability. They have them all available to them. You may be that person that, even though they don't come to you, you may just nudge them in that direction. There is hope. There is an opportunity for you to get the support that you need. Sometimes we just have to look for it. And you just might be that person that helps push them in that direction. You may not be the one that gets to walk alongside them, but you can help them find the resources that they need that's in their departments that are available to you. The spirit. What is part of your soul? What does it say to you? Well, it helps. What is your moral compass? How do you define what's good and what's bad? Who does that for you? Is this something you were just raised with? Is there an overlying sense of what it is? For me, of course, that's Christ, that moral compass is defined that way. You need to find out what is your moral compass and who defines that. And how does faith play a role in that? Faith doesn't always have to be a religious or a God-seeking. It is for me, but faith is what you believe in. What holds you together? What brings that structure into your life? So you have faith, you don't have faith, but you believe something. That's where those moral compass and that faith come into line. You can be that guide, that light into someone else's life. Your example sets the tone for all of that. You are being watched. You're being watched by your children, your grandchildren. You're being watched by your spouse, by your friends. What is it that you are demonstrating? And if you're having that hard time, who are you going to go and get the help from? How can you reach out? Those are some good options for you to take a look at. I want to leave you with those 3 things. This is not meant to be a full-on course. This is just to get you thinking in the right direction. This is to help bring about a conversation. There is support. You need to find it. Ground yourself. Use those senses to get you back centered into who you are and help someone else do the same thing. It's fabulous with children. It is fabulous with your spouse. Let's just sit here knee to knee. I'm holding your hands. Go through those for that physical. For the mind, talk about that. Find someone that's trusted, that you can go to, that has that confidentiality, that's got your back, and talk with them. Find out where your faith lies. Where is your moral compass? What decides good and bad? And remember that throughout all of this, that iceberg effect, I like to tell my deputies, quite frankly, you deal with the 10% of the worst that's going on in life. The other 90%, the quiet majority, doesn't say a whole lot, but they love, respect, honor, are grateful that you were there. But because you are so focused on only that 10%, you forget that the other 90 is out there, loving, wanting you to do well, or mournful over when you're injured or when there is a death. They hurt for you. They hurt for the entire department because they really care. Lift up your eyes and not focus on just the 10%, but the other 90% that you are serving, that you are caring for, that you are taking care of in your communities. They love, honor, respect you, and are grateful. It doesn't always seem that way because you're only in that 10% of the time. Even if it's a traffic violation, they're not happy to get stopped because they know that they've done is wrong. They may take it out on you, but that same person is going to be standing there rooting you on, wanting what's best for you when, they're not getting the ticket. Some resources that I want to leave you with so that you've got at least something taken away from this besides these words of encouragement. These are resources that I use with all of my deputies, all of my teams, all of my law enforcement professionals on an ongoing basis, and they are my go-tos. I have them sitting on my desk right now, but I took some pictures, so if you want to take some screenshots of this, that would be great, or at least write some of them down. One of the best things that I've come across lately is officerprivacy.com. Officer Privacy is a web program that helps protect you and your family. With all of the protests and all of the government and the political atmosphere right now, some people are actually able to research and find out about where officers live, where their families live, their names, their birth dates. It's amazing. It's all out there. There's supposed to be firewalls and protect it, but sometimes hackers will get in there and they'll try and find it and make life miserable. We just had a deputy in our force that this happened with. And so we immediately offered this up, and it's a great program. It's very inexpensive, and for first responders, actually they give you a free 14-day. It's not very pricey at all, but it will protect you and find out when your name is on the internet, and you can hide your address and phone numbers and protect your family. So officerprivacy.com is one of my go-tos. The other one that I've kind of connected up with is Proud Police Wife. She's an amazing woman. Her husband, of course, is a police officer, but great resources, particularly for wives, particularly for spouses. Whether you are the husband that's a spouse that's at home, maybe taking care of the kids, or you're doing whatever, and your wife is the police officer, the first responder. It's a great little nuances, very uplifting, and great resources on what we can do to help protect ourselves, but also give us some insight. And she's very timely. Her blogs are great. And so I wanted to give her a plug. But Proud Police Wife is another one of the ones that I follow regularly and helps me and all of the deputies that I work with. There's a couple books that I feel very strongly about. And Behind the Badge, and it was written by Adam Davis. It's actually a devotional for those wearing the badge. And it's amazing. It's a great resource to help think and bring our mind back. They've got some good scriptures in it, and it's a very uplifting and makes you feel not so alone. And even if your first responder, the one you're caring and loving about and why you've attended this particular webinar, it's not, if they won't read it, you read it. But it's fabulous. I love it. Adam Davis is great, former law enforcement. It's an awesome read. So one devotional a day, maybe a minute or two, take a look at that. Very helpful. The other one is the Bulletproof Marriage. Adam Davis helped write this with Lieutenant Colonel Grossman. I had the opportunity to be in a seminar live with them and loved their insights, loved what was going on. I've actually pulled out sections of this to use when I'm doing marriage counseling with law enforcement professionals, and or we've had some marriage retreats that's been strictly for law enforcement, which has been wonderful. This is a great opportunity to use this particular book if you don't have those a chance to go to retreats or whatnot. But this is a great one to build on your marriage, and it gives you lots of great tips, questions to kind of go through and answer, talking points with each other to help bring out some of that stuff that we just really even can't put a name to it. We don't even know how to describe it. So this is a great book. I love it and use it frequently and really recommend this one. One of the last books that I've used and have been in multiple seminars with Gil Martin. He's great. He is with law enforcement. He has been doing this. He has a great seminar, but Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement, and it's a guide for officers and their families. I got to hear him speak a couple times live, and it was remarkable. It puts it down into black and white, very simplistic format. It's an easy read. It's a very thin little book, but it's required. It's a requirement. When I went through and went to post-certification and I became a law enforcement chaplain, after already studying to become a chaplain, this was one of our go-tos. And I feel it's required reading. You need to understand what the brain chemistry is, what the physicalness that's going on with the body and the mind, and then how does the soul and the spirit intertwine into all of that. And it is the best resource that I've seen that's really just puts it out there about being law enforcement and trying to be a supporter for law enforcement to really understand. Great resource. I encourage you to get all three of those books. This one, hands down, has to be a must for everybody. Those are what I use when I'm working with my law enforcement personnel, and it's something that I enjoy doing very much. I'm offering a 50% discount if you want to take some additional training, or if you want to have a coaching session one-on-one. I'm going to extend it to that as well. You can just use the code webinar that you've seen me with this. I'll help you out. I'd be happy to come and speak with your group, or if there is an opportunity for us to share like-mindedness together. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope this has been a benefit to you as it has been to me over the years of helping to serve our law enforcement, and that you find some resources and some aha moments. Even though they're so simplistic, they seem too easy, but really they are amazing. Sometimes the easiest things, the things that we're not doing something really big, really will make the biggest difference. It doesn't have to be complicated, but you can do this. And if you need help, you've got me here. Follow me on seekinghope.com, both on my Facebook page, and get signed up for the e-newsletters, and you'll see more trainings. Lots of great free stuff coming out. You can always go to our resource page. There's lots of free things in there as well. And if there's anything that I can do to help you, please let me know. I look forward to having more of your feedback. God bless. Be safe.